Hello everyone, I am Rhoda and welcome to Rhoda Cards. Today I'm going to show you how to do a peekaboo card, and this is the card I'm going to be making. I saw this somewhere, I don't know where I saw it, but I just thought this was really cute and I had to recreate it. The peekaboo card itself, the design, there's several different videos out there. Jennifer McGuire has done one, and Dawn Stampin' Thoughts, she's done one. So I've watched a few of them, so I just kind of worked it out to my own way. But this is called a peekaboo card, and it works like this. I put a little arrow down here, so you just lift this side of the card, and the piece from the side slides over. So you see one image, and then when you open it, you see the other image. So I'm going to show you how I made this. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need 3 pieces of cardstock. This is going to take a little bit more cardstock than normal. You need a piece of 8 1/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score this. You need another piece that is 8 1/2 by 4 1/4. We're also going to score this one. And a third piece of cardstock, which is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. And again, we're going to score it. Now, the pattern paper that I put on the front, I made it 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So you will need a piece of pattern paper for the front. So let's go ahead and get the scoreboard out and score this. So this piece of cardstock is 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. Now you need to score the end 1/4 inch on the end, and that's what's going to fold and glue onto one of the other pieces, and that's our back part. So let's score this. Like this. See if we can get the numbers in the camera here. Score this at 5 1/2. And my thing here. So score that at 5 1/2. And this piece here is 8 1/2 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score this in half at 4 1/4. So when you fold it, it's going to be a square that's 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, this piece is 8 1/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score it at 2 3/4. And 3/4. Okay, and we'll put the scoreboard away. Put this back up in the corner. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish all of these really good. With my bone folder. So these moving parts, I'm going to go ahead and burnish them down. And this one just has a little 1/4 inch piece on the back here. Okay, now what I did is I went ahead and stuck the pattern paper down on the front piece. And I'm using liquid glue for this because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. I tried making it with a tape runner, but if you don't get it down exactly right, you really can't move it a little bit to get it to line up. Now, this is going to fit the whole front panel, but we're going to cut out a circle here in the corner. So when you put your glue on it, you just want to put your glue around the edges on this side because that's where we're going to cut it out. Now I put a little bit of glue over in this side to hold the paper down here, but you don't want to put glue over in this corner because that's where we're going to cut out that corner. So we'll just put a little bit of glue right along the edges there. And just put a little bit on that side. Now when you glue this down, make sure that this piece, that the score line is here, and you put your glue on this side, the extra glue, because this corner down here is where we're going to cut out that little bit. So this is where we're going to cut out the circle here. Now if it overlaps a little bit, you can take your scissors and just trim that off a little bit. And then what you want to do is go ahead and die cut out the corner circle. You're going to put, I use a circle die. You can use a punch. You can do it however you want to do it. But that's going to be cut right out of the corner there. Now the other thing you need to remember is you also need to cut, this is the piece that goes on the inside. This piece is going to glue right along the edge here, like this. And it's going to glue right in like that. Okay, so this is the 4 1/4. This piece is going to be right in there like that. Now eventually you're going to have a circle in all 3 pieces of cardstock, of course, plus the paper at the top. So you want to make sure that you cut the circle exactly the same on all 3 pieces. Now that can be kind of difficult to do because this die won't cut through all 3 pieces of cardstock at the same time. So let me show you how I cut it. Get my Cuttlebug over here. And again, we're going to cut both of these. So let me get this in here and let me just show you what I did. So this is the first piece that we're going to cut, and I'm just going to cut it out kind of in the corner like that. And I'm going to put it through the machine. I don't have a lot of room on my table, so I'm going to put this together off camera and then run it through. And this piece will cut through the pattern paper in the first piece of cardstock. I'm sorry about the table shaking. Okay. Shoot. Well, it didn't cut out right because it moved when it went through. So I will show you what I did with another piece. So I have already cut this piece out. Put this in the corner, and I cut that out like that. Then what I did was I took this piece and I put it up against this piece like this, and I ran it through like that, because you can put it through one, and what it will do is it will give you an impression on the one behind it. And then what I did was I ran it through again. So what happens is you put this piece behind it like this, so you can see that, and then you fit this down in there like that. Let's see if this one will work like it's supposed to. Hold on just a second. Bear with me. I usually do all this before I start the video, but I wanted to show you how I did it before I started the video so you could see how to do it. So again, I'm going to run this through. Sorry about the table shaking. Hopefully this one won't move this time. And I will show you this. Aha! Okay. So this one worked the way it's supposed to. See, that was the one that I've already done. I put this behind it, ran it through, and you see how it left an impression? It didn't cut all the way through, but it left an impression. So now you can take the die and stick it on that and then run it through and cut that out. And then do the same thing with this one, because it will fit down, the circle will fit into the impression, and then you can run it through and cut that out. And then it will be cut on through on both pieces like this. This is what you want it to look like. And you want to make sure that that circle lines up with all three pieces. See how when you put all three pieces together, the circle's going to line up with that. So there's that. Alright, we'll move my cuddle bug out of the way. Again, I don't have enough room for it on my table. Alright, so when we start putting this together, this is the piece that we did on the back with the 1/4 inch score line on it. And then this goes inside here. Now what I did with this one is I stamped my greeting on here before I glued it all together. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me get my mat out. You want to use a foam mat when you're using clear stamps. I'm using this Merry Christmas stamp, and I'm using some red ink. It's cranberry ink from Close to My Heart, if you want to see it. And then I stamped that. Make sure it's on the right side of the card. This is going to be glued to the front panel. So this is the inside because it opens this way. You want to make sure you stamp it on the right side. And put this right down on the bottom there. I really like that stamp. Okay. So now we can put the front piece together. Let me put this here. And this is going to glue here. Now when you do this, make sure that you can hold it together and you can close it and open it. And you want to make sure that the piece goes all the way across so that you can't see the end of it like that when you make it. So make sure that it's the right length, and then when you glue it, that it's all glued together properly. I'll go ahead and move this out of the way. So now that we have that, make sure that's on the right area, and then this is going to glue right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my glue on this piece on the front, because that's what's going to glue to this piece over here. So put a little bit of glue on here. And then this piece is going to glue here. And again, you want to make sure that you line up the circles. So you want to get these circles lined up. If it sticks out on these sides a little bit, you can trim it down with your scissors, but just make sure that your circles are lined up. And then when you close it, that should be lined up there too. So now we have this back piece. This is the piece that's going to go on the back, but it goes this way, and it glues to this piece right here. So that goes in like that. So this 1/4 inch piece here is going to glue on there. Okay, so it's going to glue right on the back of here. That's where that's going to glue, right there. This 1/4 of an inch strip right here is kind of hard to glue things to, so that's why I'm using liquid glue. Make sure you line that up. Again, make sure everything is lined up. Okay, and see, this piece is going to go in between them. See how that goes in between? Like that. Okay, now I'm going to show you again. Let me put that up there for just a second. Here's the front piece that we die cut out. Here's this piece with that. This piece is going to glue on here like that. Make sure your circles line up. And then this back piece with the 1/4 inch here, here's our circles. It's going to glue to the back of this one. So that glues there, and this glues here, like that. That's the way that works. And that's why this middle piece flips. Like this one. Flips. And we'll take care of it, kind of where it sticks there here in just a second. Alright, so now we have this part done. And I put this little snowman right inside the circle there. Now, if you have the right size stamps and the right size circle, you can just stamp your stamp right inside the circle. And you don't have to worry about drawing a line to make sure you're inside the circle, and I'll show you that here in just a second. But this snowman is the snowman you're going to see when the card is closed. So let's go ahead and ink him up, and we're going to stamp him right in the middle here. Now when you're stamping, you want to go straight down and up again. You don't want to rock your stamp, because if you rock it, then it can be a little blurry. Now when we open this circle is where we want the other image at, where our little frosty has melted. Now this stamp is just a little bit bigger than the circle, just so when I stamp it, it's liable to leave ink around this circle here. So what you can do to make sure that you get the image in the right spot is to use a pencil, and you can lightly draw a line where you want your stamp to go. I didn't draw it all the way around because it's just going to be down here at the end. Now, I don't want to stamp directly through here because I don't want to get ink around the edges, so I will open this up and I will stamp. There's our other one, and I'm going to stamp inside this circle here. So let's get our stamp image here, and we're going to stamp this right inside our circle here. And I press it down and hold it for a couple of seconds. Let the ink absorb into the paper. And that is our stamping. Now, you have this circle around here in pencil, and you can just take an eraser and erase those marks. Now, wait a few seconds before you erase it, because you want to make sure that that ink is dry, because if you go to erase it and the ink is still a little bit wet, it's going to smear. Ask me how I know that. I do these things and then share with you so that you don't do those mess ups too. And you can just erase the circle. So when you put the circle in pencil, just do it very lightly so that you can erase it. So now we have the snowman that's melted. We have the snowman that is not melted. And then I just used some markers and I colored the little snowman in. Just used a few markers. I know the fancy Copic markers are the markers that a lot of people use to do this coloring for cards and things, but I have to admit I use a lot of Crayola. It's not real expensive, it lasts for a while, and sometimes they're just as good. Now your Copic markers, if you use your Copic markers on here, they're going to bleed through the back, and I really didn't want that to happen. So I just grabbed the Crayolas today. I'm not the best coloring person in the world, but there's really not a lot of coloring involved on this card. So grabbing a few colors and just coloring in the little snowman, it's not a big deal. And again, a lot of times I do this off camera too, because you don't really need to watch me color, especially if you have a lot of those fancy markers. You don't really need to see me color. But I wanted to just go through the whole card today, and since I had to do the cutting and the stamping, I just decided to go ahead and do the coloring too while I'm at it. I mean, why not, right? This card, once you get all the cutting and stuff done, this card is really not that difficult. It's really easy. It's really easy to do. I think sometimes gluing the pieces together is the hardest part. And the first time I made this card, I used a tape runner. And that was a mistake because I couldn't wiggle it around and I got it stuck. It was a little bit off and it got kind of stuck, and then I couldn't wiggle it around. So then I had to take my scissors and kind of trim it down because it got off a little bit. So the liquid glue was a lot easier to use. So, and we all make few mistakes here and there. Like when I did the die cutting on my circle, it moved on me. But I always make some extras so we can continue on the way. Mistakes happen. You just say, oh no, and you just move on to the next thing. So I'm just going to color him a little bit. Again, there's not a whole lot of coloring involved with this snowman. So just color a little bit. Oh, forgot the berries on his hat. And a little bit for his hat here. Now I will caution you, if you are using crayons like markers like I am, that you do have to give it a little bit to dry before you start opening it and closing it, because these markers take a little bit more to dry than the other ones do. So I'll just let that sit there for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and decorate the front. I did not put a whole lot of decorations on here. You can add all kinds of things. You can add die cuts, you can add holly leaves, you can add, you know, whatever you want to the front. Put glitter on it, snowflakes, whatever. I didn't decorate a whole lot. I'm just putting my little sentiment on the front. And I'm putting this little arrow on it because a lot of people have a hard time trying to figure out how to open these cards. And I've given these cards to a couple people and they pick it up and it kind of falls apart and they don't know what to do. So I decided to put this little arrow on here to let people know that you lift this side. I'm going to still let that dry a little bit. And then that's where you lift here. And that's where it flips. Now I've given it to people and they just kind of go like this. And they don't really know kind of what to do with it. So that's why I put the little arrow on it. Now, here's our little card. And this flips this way. Now sometimes it can kind of, this piece can kind of get stuck on this right here. So I saw a little trick from Jennifer McGuire, and she said to put a piece of tape on it, like just regular Scotch tape. Now I took a piece of Scotch tape and I had to cut it in half because it's wider than this little area right here. It's a lot wider. So I took a strip of Scotch tape and I just cut it in half, and then you just put this over, make sure it's not sticking through our circle here, and just lay that down. And that should help with the end of it getting caught when you go to open it. So it should slide smoother. So there you go. This is a Peek-a-boo card. I had a lot of fun making that. I thought that was so cute with that snowman. When I saw that, I was just like, oh, I've got to do that. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a couple of tips from that. I hope you decide to give the Peek-a-boo card a try. And I thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next one.